Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, are all of them are desperate to reduce NVIDIA's dependency. And that desperation has now found a solution, found an answer, because now they have a real alternative to go to. The engineer who built the compiler that powers every iPhone app and created the Swift programming language used by 400 million iOS devices just sold his startup, his AI startup, for $3.9 billion. And he did it in 4 years. The founder's name is Chris Lattner, and his first time building a startup led to his first exit. And it might be the most strategic, important acquisition in the AI chip wars where NVIDIA should be terrified. All right, so who is the founder? So Chris Lattner is one of the most consequential engineers in Silicon Valley history. While at Apple, he created LLVM, the compiler infrastructure that Apple, Google, and virtually every major tech company relies on. He also built Swift, Apple's programming language, that now powers over 400 million iOS apps. Now, after Apple, he led Tesla's autopilot software team, then became a VP at Google Brain. And in 2022, he left Google to co-found Modular with Tim Davis, a colleague that he met back in Google. Now, unlike most founders, Lattner's wasn't chasing an exit. He was solving the biggest infrastructure problem in AI, which is NVIDIA's software monopoly. I love seeing stories of people who are there's professionals and there's executors. I love seeing stories of people who are executors within the corporate space who made such an impact within their role, being able to become founders, because their domain knowledge is so powerful, so strong, that if they decided to put all of the effort into their own ideas, into their own vision of what the future looks like, you have outcomes like this. All right, so let's talk about the product itself. So Modular built something revolutionary, the Max platform and Mojo programming language. It's the only AI software stack that lets you run a single AI model across any chip. NVIDIA GPUs, AMD GPUs, Qualcomm NPUs, CPUs, custom ASICs, you name it. This programming language allows you to actually build on top of it. Now, this is a direct attack on CUDA, which is actually NVIDIA's software ecosystem that has kept them dominant for the past 15 years. Because NVIDIA's moat isn't just the chips, it is CUDA. Every AI model trained on NVIDIA hardware becomes locked into CUDA's libraries, making it economically painful to switch to a different competitor. So this startup, Modular, breaks that, literally breaks the lock-in idea that NVIDIA has created. But by 2025, this is crazy to say. In 2025, they hit $49.7 million in revenue with just 300 people in the team. Now, the platform itself is described as the only hardware that is agnostic to AI deployment platforms in existence. The technical benefit is there, the technical expertise is there, but let's talk about the numbers. So Modular, I keep saying Modular, but Modular raised $380 million in total venture capital, $30 million in the seed, $100 million in the Series B, and $250 million in the Series C at a valuation of about $1.6 billion. And just 9 months later, Qualcomm acquired them for $3.9 billion in all stock. So no cash, all stock. And what does that look like? That is a 2.4 times markup on their last private valuation in under a year. And to add a little bit more context into the numbers, 300 people within this team, that's about $13.1 million per employee. So why now? That's the main question. What is going on that Qualcomm decided to acquire this company for $3.92 billion? So Qualcomm isn't just buying technology here. They're buying a strategic positioning in the AI wars. Qualcomm sells Snapdragon NPUs in iPhones and PCs, and they're aggressively pushing into data centers. But they've always had software problems. I think a lot of people who've worked in Qualcomm, or if you're ever on Reddit, you hear a lot about the negative things about Qualcomm and their software. And because of that very reason, developers build on CUDA, which is owned by NVIDIA, because it's what they know. Owning Modular changes everything because now Qualcomm can offer both the chip and the software stack that makes AI portable across any hardware, matching NVIDIA's full stack advances. Now, Qualcomm simultaneously announced a new data center process and raised their 2029 handset revenue target to $40 billion. And this acquisition here directly enables that vision. Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud are all of them are desperate to reduce NVIDIA's dependency. And that desperation has now found a solution, found an answer, because now they have a real alternative to go to. This is a big deal because NVIDIA has been able to be so dominant for the past 15 years because they had control, kind of a monopoly feel, control of the software space for chips with CUDA. But now with this acquisition made by Qualcomm, they're acquiring a company that allows for different stacks to live within chips. So you're not tied down to just one. So what's next? What is next for the founder, Chris Lattner, and the Modular team? So next up, this acquisition itself was all stock. So they're going to be spending the next year, probably 2 years, integrating into Qualcomm's AI division. And as a first-time founder, I think this $3.9 billion acquisition is validation to Chris Lattner that he's not just an engineer, he's not just an AI researcher, but he's also somebody who can build, grow, and in this case, sell a startup. And outside of just the founder and the founding team, the AI industry, I think now is going to be facing the beginning of the end of a single vendor. And that single vendor is NVIDIA. All right, folks, what do you guys think about this video? This acquisition here, Qualcomm acquiring Modular, which is a startup that was only 4 years old, raised tons of money in VC, but was able to exit at $3.6 billion all stock. Super impressive. The engineer, the founder of Modular is one of those super technical people who made such a change, such an impact around the world that he decided to give himself a shot and build his own startup. And now he's probably almost a billionaire. So let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think NVIDIA should be concerned? Do you think that a lot of these other companies that were tied down to NVIDIA are happy? Are they going to be willing to switch to a competitor? Or are they going to stay with the legacy option because it's what they know? I don't know. Add your comments down below. Let me know what you think.